Hi, my name is Meghna, and I am one of the co founders of WeUnlearn. Thank you so much for inviting us to give a talk. We are very excited. So, let me begin by saying a small story, a snippet from my life. I used to journal a lot when I was younger, and one of my entries when I was 21, 22 was that I want to be the vice president of an education organization, which is very interesting. Why did I specifically choose the designation vice president? Why not president? What was stopping me? Till I was 25, I believed that boys and girls are different, which is true. They are. But I believed specifically in the abilities and the aspiration for boys and girls being different, which is untrue. It is not. Till I was 25, my vision for my future was me wearing a white dress with my hands in the pocket of my husband, which is not a problem, except I made this to be my vision because that's what I thought girls should do. The world is built on a default male bias, and I was a victim to that. That is not to say that men have it easy. Patriarchy affects men too, and that is something which Pallavi, my co founder, is going to touch upon. But it is an undeniable fact that women in marginalized communities are very disadvantaged, and the world prefers males. There's a book by Carolina Perez which is called Invisible Women. And it talks about how, even when you are designing phones or designing the car seat of a car, the standard body type or the standard hand taken is that of a men. And these are small things, but it really affects the way you live if you are not a male in this society. So yeah, when I think about my childhood, I remember I was asked to wear different clothes when uncles and men were to visit. And today I think, is that not problematic? Like, is it not creepy that I was asked to hide my body in front of certain people? Keep your legs shut, hide your bra strap, talk like a girl. I've heard all of this while growing up, and it's funny, but I actually believed it till I was like age 25. And then I was in the Young India Fellowship, and I was surrounded by feminist peers and feminist literature. And that's when I started unlearning, and I started seeing the rampant sexism, which I couldn't unsee anymore, in hoardings, in books, in movies. And I think that was the beginning of a change in me.
I grew up with a mental model that I need to work towards what is best for me. So I made it my mission to win every school contest, to come first in every class, to clear the IIT JEE. However, some experiences of my life did not fit into this mental model. I had moved to Kota to prepare for the IIT JEE, and for the first time in my life, I faced gender abuse and discrimination there. I could solve complex physics problems, but I was not taught how to deal with abuse. I would walk up the stairs of my coaching class with dread to learn from a misogynist teacher who would ask me every day, why are my parents wasting their money? Girls belong in the kitchen. I would walk down the stairs with dread again because I had to navigate the sea of boys who would slap their hands on any part of my body they could reach. I would lower my bag so that my back could be protected. I would form a cross with my arms so that my breast could be protected. But this did not always work, and the experiences became more intense and traumatic. I fell into depression. My performance started declining. My parents understood that something was wrong and they brought me back home. I gave the exam and I somehow just cleared it. But the trauma remained and it manifested in adulthood. There was a lot of anger and resentment inside. It took me a decade of unlearning to realize that it wasn't my fault.
So I want to get a little definition specific now. I want to talk a little bit about what stereotypes are. Stereotypes are overgeneralization of attributes of certain groups. example, when you meet someone from Northeast and you're like, oh, do you like momos? Right? Or you meet someone from South India and you're like, oh, do you have dosa for lunch and dinner? And when academicians studied it, they found out that by age 5, children spontaneously sort people based on their gender and also start recognizing gender stereotypes such as gentle for girl and rowdy for boys. And contrary to what people believe, children are not passive recipients of gender, but they're active gender detectives. That is, they try to seek information about their gender and they store it in their brain because that's what helps them navigate the world. And children constantly evaluate their gender group either privately or publicly, which means that what an adult thinks about a person's gender or how an adult conducts their gender identity really affects the way a child is going to think about their gender identity. There are a lot of, I started doing a lot of research into how you could stop the growth of gender stereotypes in children. And one of the things that I found out is called multi-classification, which was found out by Rebecca Bigler. She basically said that if a child knows how to categorize a person or an object across different identities, which is, say, they get to know that they can say that Meghna is a woman, Meghna is an entrepreneur, Meghna is a dog mom, Meghna is a voracious reader, then they basically stop putting too much of importance on the gender identity, which reduces the effect of the gender identity in their everyday lives. Um, a second way of raising children who could be gender sensitive is by having cross cultural friendships. By this, I mean that does your friend group have representations from different identities and different ethnicities? Because children who see that their parents have friends from multiple identities and ethnicities are children who actually grow up to be gender sensitive. Um, and we know this, and I'm just going to repeat the fact, but it's not just children who are affected by gender stereotypes. Um, and a lot of us want to not be affected by it, and we think that we know, I have read enough about it or I have learned enough about it. I don't think I exhibit gender stereotypes. But it has unconsciously kind of influenced the way we live, and it unconsciously influences us. Um, and one of the biggest examples of this is an example from the Philharmonic Orchestra. The Philharmonic Orchestra is one of the most well known orchestras in the world. And they found out that most of their musicians were males. And they were very surprised by it. So, what they did next time is that they asked their candidates who wanted to apply to be a musician in their orchestra to give blind auditions, which is to give an audition behind a curtain, and the judges are behind the curtain, and the judges cannot see the participants. And interestingly enough, the number of female musicians increased by 70% when they did that. And yeah, so I think I am a big advocate of raising people or of living in an anti-bias environment. And living in an anti-bias environment does not mean you're gender blind. You cannot choose to be gender blind. You cannot say I don't see gender, because not recognizing gender as a problem is not being then able to understand how gender manifests itself. So it's actually very wrong to say I'm gender blind or I am color blind or I am caste blind. One should recognize it, because when you recognize it, you know how to mitigate it or how you navigate it. So for me, anti-bias means being able to recognize differences and accommodate for the same. It is to choose equity, right, over equality.
In India, the world experienced by men, women, and other genders are vastly different on a daily basis. Let us compare the lives of men with women. While men tend to experience greater freedom, women tend to experience extensive limitations on their freedom. However, men's association with power is complicated. It is not all liberating. They are expected to conform to masculinity norms laid down by the society. If we look at how a boy is raised in India, then we see that at every point in his life, he's made to believe that he has more power than a girl. He's repeatedly conditioned through statements like, don't play with dolls, don't cry like a girl, Earn for your family, protect them. Be a man, control your wife, carry on the family name. And if you take a systems view of how these stereotypes are operating, then we realize that there are many forces at play. We saw the core mental models that form the basis of masculine identity, which basically defines what does it mean to be a man. These models are further supported by social norms, amplified by institutions, and reinforced by ideologies. These result in visible inequalities like gender based violence, male leadership across the board, misogynist media. And these forces start operating from when a boy is born to the school, community, and workplace. The system keeps reinforcing itself and perpetuating the harmful norms that we see today. More than 40% of adolescent boys agree to violence being a medium of control.
So, my journey into the gender world happened when I was 25. I co founded the Irrelevant Project, which published 5 gender sensitive picture books for children. It was a completely crowd-funded effort. We kind of used research to design the storyline of the books. And I wanted to share this knowledge that I was starting to newly gather with the people around me. And when I would converse with people, I recognized that a lot of people wanted to understand or contribute to the discourse, but they couldn't do so because the language in which all of these academic works were written, all of these essays were written, were very tough to understand. They had jargon, they had big words, and I wanted to do something about it because everyone should be able to understand this literature and everyone should be able to contribute to it so that we have a dynamic and evolving concept of what it means to live in a gendered world. So I started putting out these research papers into bite-sized infographics on Instagram. um, and a lot of people started really liking it, and they would tell me, oh Meghna, can you do this topic or can you do that topic? And today we are a community of 27,000 strong people, and we have a rotating team of volunteers who come and who read research papers and who kind of convert it to infographics for everybody else to understand. And I would love for all of you to follow our Instagram page and kind of tell us what are the topics you would like us to cover, because we're always open to feedback, we're always open to suggestions, and we do take your suggestions very seriously.
At WeUnlearn, we have developed new and innovative solutions to help the youth build their self efficacy and lead gender equitable lives. These solutions are rooted in science, evidence based, and research backed. For preteens, we have developed a card game named Call It that helps them look beyond gender stereotypes. We communicate with the youth through social media to encourage critical discourse on topics related to gender. For adolescents, we have developed an interactive chatbot called Wulu, which helps them gain the skills, knowledge, and resources to develop emotional resilience and lead gender equitable lives. Through Wulu, children can have conversations with a professional counselor, learn about harmful gender norms and how they are restrictive, gain essential life skills to deal with difficult situations, and even have some fun while learning alternate norms. We have been conducting pilots of our solution and seeing promising results. We are about to launch a large scale project in collaboration with universities like Harvard and Stanford to measure the effectiveness of Wulu. Wulu prevents adolescents to go through what I went through and many of us went through. We want our children to learn coding from primary school. But are we imparting essential life skills to help them deal with the many challenges that they will face ahead in their lives? Let us join hands in creating a strong, resilient future for our country.